This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 417-200-4715. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructors, Vincent Finelli and Mark Wright.
This is USAPrepares.com, where converging threats are confronted daily on KWTO 560 AM, the powerhouse of the Midwest. And Vincent Finelli, the original survival economist, is in the classroom today. And this is a very, very special edition of USA Prepares today because we have a living legend, one of the top 100 talk show hosts in America today, our very own Jim Bohannon. Vinny, what do you think about that?
I think it's awesome, Mark, and in the studio with us. And this is the studio that he broadcast out of.
Jim, you broadcasted out of this studio right
KWTO.
here? I did broadcast from KWTO, but it was the studios on Glenstone, which is 4 studios ago.
I see.
But when I worked here, I worked here in 1966 when you had to fight the dinosaurs on Glenstone, you see, in order to get to work.
Yeah.
So, no, I did work at this station, but not in this building.
I see.
There you go.
Well, obviously, they've done a few upgrades over the years.
Just a couple, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought the move away from tubes was a problem.
Yeah.
Transistors in solid state, I didn't think would ever work. Passing fads also, but it does seem to have come to fruition. And here we are, these brand new, spanking new studios with these computer things everywhere.
Absolutely. Well, Jim, we are really thankful that you're here today during the program, and we have I don't even know if you know this, but the last couple of weeks we have been promoting you at our USA Prepares VIP dinner at the fairgrounds.
That's what I hear.
And we've been giving away tickets every day, and we've had lots of emails, lots of text. We've been telling people to go to our USA Prepares Facebook page and hit like, and you'd get in the drawing. We had a lot of people doing that. You're a pretty popular guy here in the Ozarks,
That's
by the way.
very nice to know. I'm really sorry I won't be able to make it. I'm only kidding. I'll be there.
Oh, my gosh. People are driving in the ditch right now all around Springfield.
That's very nice to hear. I'm very honored by that. And it's nice that an Ozarks boy can go off and come back and they don't forget you.
Well, you are a legend. You are a legend.
There's no doubt about it. Now,
back in my day, I remember the winter of 32.
Now, I was talking with Bonnie earlier today, and a little bit about your history, but I really don't know. I'm not originally from the Ozarks. I moved here about 18 years ago from Fort Worth, Texas, to go to college, and then I stuck around. And then Vinny here came here, I think, about 5 years ago from Virginia. He's up around your neck of the woods now.
What part of Virginia?
Charlotte County.
Is that around Charlottesville?
Well, it's about 70 miles away from Charlottesville, and Charlotte County is known for the fact that the war between the states went all the way around Charlotte County.
Oh, well, that's a pretty good way to. There weren't many parts of Virginia where it did go all the way around,
but
so that's pretty good to know.
Well,
anyway, but I thought you guys ain't from these parts, are you?
Not originally.
Not originally.
So we don't know the Jim Bohannon story, and we have a lot of people. Jim, we did our Get Prepared Expo back in the spring at the Downtown Expo Center.
I heard that. You drew about 80 million people to that.
I had a large crowd, and we had people from 14 different states. So we literally have people all around America listening to this program right now.
On the streaming audio.
Absolutely. And so a lot of them don't know Jim Bohannon's history here with KWTO in the Ozarks, and we kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that before we talked on some other issues today, if you don't mind.
No, not at all. No, but enough about me. What do you think about me? As they say. We'll try not to give you the full 3 credit hours of history, but I'll give you the short course.
I told you last night we were at the fairgrounds. By the way, that was great radio last night.
That was fun radio.
Yeah, the weather
was
great.
perfect. Oh,
it really cooperated.
And then the storm managed to wait an entire 45 minutes until after the show was over.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. The first time I heard your voice, Jimbo, was in Fort Worth, Texas. I grew up in Fort Worth.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know when you started on the radio, when you were syndicated, but the first time I heard that velvet tone voice of yours, that deep baritone voice, I should say, was about 25, 30 years ago in the Metroplex. And I've been a fan ever since.
Well, that's I really do appreciate that, Mark. I've had a lot of fun over the years. I started in radio actually just up the road in Lebanon, Missouri, in 1960. So it's been 51 years. Unbelievable. But a little station called KLWT, we called it Keep Listening, We're Trying.
That's good.
The general manager, sales manager, engineer, Jack Sellers. At the time, the federal minimum wage was $1 an hour. And Jack said, Jim, we'd pay you what you're worth, but it's illegal. So I said, okay, you don't have to telegraph that one to me, Jack. I can read between the lines. So anyway, I started there, came to Springfield, worked for a while here at what was the big rock and roll station in the days of AM rock and roll, the 1340 on the dial KICK here. Worked at KWTO in the news department. Then Uncle Sam called and invited me to an all-expense-paid vacation in Southeast Asia, which I said, well, of course. Why not?
Surely.
And after that, went on to Washington, D.C. That's where the Army transferred me out of Vietnam after the Tet Offensive and all. And then I got finally onto the local news stations, WTOP and WRC. Got hired by the Mutual Broadcasting System. They took me to Chicago, worked at the station in Chicago, and I've been with that company now for 31 years, since 1980.
TOP's in Washington, D.C.,
It is
isn't
in
it?
Washington, that's right, yeah. Great station. So that's the short history right there.
Okay, so the company you're currently with is Westwood One,
Which
right?
Mutual became Westwood One.
I
Mutual
see.
was acquired by Westwood One, and then the name Mutual was phased out. Right.
Interesting, because I hear Jim Bohannon from the Westwood Studios all the time from Washington, D.C., so I was kind of trying to figure out what the history was there.
Yeah.
Okay, now you broadcast out of our nation's capital every night from, I guess it's 10
9 to midnight Central.
Central.
Yeah.
Okay, 10 to 1
Eastern. Right.
Now, how do you do that every single night? And how long have you been doing that for?
Well, let's see. This particular schedule that I'm on goes back to January of '93. So it's been 18 and a half years that I've been doing this. I do the Bohannon show from 10 to 1 Eastern. And then I do America in the Morning from 5 to 6, which you hear right here on KWTO and also Jock 98.7. And then my day is done. Then I go home.
Jeez.
Okay, so you start your night and you stay all the way through until your morning show, and then you go to sleep during the day.
Exactly, yeah.
Why do you go home?
I don't know. It seemed like the thing to do at the time. Now that you mention it, I'll have to reassess that. I'm not sure. But, people commiserate with me about my hours. You have to work all night, you poor darling. Yeah. You know what? No dress code. No meetings. No bosses. Free parking in downtown Washington. No rush hour. Poor Jim.
Yeah.
Poor Jim.
Yeah.
Well, Jim Bohannon from Westwood One is with us here on USA Prepares Today. I'm Mark Wright. I'm here with the original survival economist, Vincent Finelli, and we will be right back after this brief break.
No whining. Only expert guests and seasoned opinions. Instruction that matters. At the controls, Vincent Finelli and Mark Wright.
And we're back on USAPrepares.com with our special guest today, Vinny, Jim Bohannon, a living legend, and you and I are now official members of the Jim Bohannon fan club.
Mark, they say that some of the best radio is during the commercial segments, and there were some things that were said that were pretty funny, class. I'm sorry you missed them, and maybe sometime when we see you in person, we'll tell you.
Yeah,
I'll give
absolutely.
you the cleaned up version.
Yeah, maybe.
Basically, I was going through all my mother's stuff after she passed away, and she saved everything that her sonny boy ever had. And I came across this brown paper bag, and I thought, well, what could that be? I looked inside, and there were about 100 of these little white buttons, which in red letters say Jim Bohannon Fan Club. And they go back to when I was a screaming rock and roll disc jockey with a stacks of wax and the hits that click right here on Sporty 1340. And they were these little fan club buttons. I thought, what do I do with these now? So I just give them away to friends as kind of a joke. But if anybody actually wants one tonight, I'm not even sure how many I have in my pocket, but we'll give
I think they're going to be
some.
lining up around the E-Plex Center
If
tonight to
anybody
get those.
wants a Jim Bohannon fan club, this is circa 1964. That's right, 57 years old from KIC, 47 years old from KICK Radio.
How about that?
How about that?
Now, we were talking about in the break about you've seen a lot in your 40. How many years in radio now? Did you say?
51 years.
51. You've seen a lot from 51 years ago till today.
Oh, yeah.
Explain to us what the major differences are.
Yeah, well, before Marconi, we used to go door to door. Hi. Good morning. Hi, Jim Bohannon here, 78 degrees. Wait, I've got sports. No, wait. Steam-powered transmitters, of course, came and went. The biggest changes, I suppose, have been in obviously the equipment. I can remember the first time I saw a cart machine, which is of now, of course, ancient technology, but it was sort of a continuous loop tape. For those of you old enough may remember the term 8-track tape.
Oh, sure.
I do.
This was a major technological development. I remember at my first job in Lebanon, I took one of the old Wallensack recorders. This was what passed for a portable recorder. Now, I'm a fairly big guy.
Yes, you are. You're a big man.
This was a stretch for me carrying this. You had to haul to carry this thing. It was not what you would call a portable recorder unless you were pretty good sized. And that was as close as we got. And it wasn't even battery powered. It had to have electrical outlets and all. The equipment changed a lot. Solid state that supplanted transistors, that supplanted tubes. We had all tube equipment back then. You could, on a hot summer day, you could fry an egg on the top of the transmitter. I mean, it got hot because those tubes generated an awful lot of heat. So that has changed. The formatting has changed a great deal. There were a lot of all things to all people stations back then. That station I worked at in Lebanon, they had a jazz show. They had a really hard hillbilly type of show. I mean, really, we're not talking about Nashville sound. We're talking real hillbilly type of sound. They
Ozark
had,
Hill stuff.
A little bit of rock and roll. Back in the early days of rock and roll, Bill Haley and Elvis. This was pre-Beatles, this sort of thing. So radio, in other words, had not really evolved that much. The network shows had all left radio when television came along, and radio couldn't compete. And radio's obituary had been written again. If I had $1 for every obituary ever written about radio, I could retire from radio. And it hadn't developed into all these different formats. I mean, back then we had rock and roll radio, but today you probably have 7 or 8 different rock formats. I mean, each one, like one record on the playlist changes, it's a new format. It's like the Kama Sutra. You crook one knee, it's a new position. And so that's changed. Radio today is much more formatted. It is very bureaucratized in many cases. We picked our records today. You'd never pick your own records. There's a program director with a computer
that's
at some
right.
corporate headquarters that picks your records for you.
Sure.
So those are all changes that have taken place.
Now, as far as what was the motivation for you to get into radio?
I wanted to meet girls. I was sort of the white Steve Urkel of Lebanon, Missouri.
The white Steve Urkel. Oh, my
class
God.
geek and the class nerd. And I thought that if I could be heard on KLWT, which when the wind is right can be heard from the entire length of Main Street in Lebanon. I thought, wow, I will be a certified stud. And it was moderately successful, but in the process, I stumbled across this career. So, and that's actually how I met my wife.
So it worked.
It did work in the long run. It finally worked. I actually went to school with this woman. Her name is Annabelle. And Annabelle was the class beauty queen and always dated football captains. And although we knew each other and were friends, in fact, she even accompanied me on the piano on my trombone solos. That's how much of a geek I was. I was a band geek. But we didn't date. That would not happen. So we graduated from high school. 33 years later, I am called to my Columbia, Missouri affiliate, KFRU, where they have their 70th anniversary party.
Right.
And Annabelle works in Columbia.
Okay.
It is a nasty night in January of 1995, ice storm, and they had this big meet and greet set up for me. And Annabelle had a friend where she worked who wanted to meet me. And Annabelle said, and these are her direct words, "I've met him. It's no big deal."
Oh, my.
And the friend said, "Get in the car. We're going." And they did. And so I'm signing autograph pictures and acting like a big shot. And I look up, and there is the woman that I have worshipped from anear these many, many years ago. And I gave her a big bear hug, and finally we got married. So.
Oh, well,
What a great
congratulations.
story.
So any of these...
The radio finally did, in fact, let me meet the girl.
How about that? So any of those single ladies out there who think they were going to meet a single guy tonight at the meetup, I'm sorry, he's taken.
I'm afraid that, yes, no more calls, please. We have a loser.